The forest was quiet under a thick blanket of snow. Every branch, every fallen log, wore a crown of white. Jack Turner, a wildlife veterinarian, moved carefully through the cold, his boots crunching in the powder. His breath hung in the air like small clouds as he followed the ranger's directions. Earlier that morning, a park ranger had called him about an injured bobcat spotted near a frozen stream. Jack had seen many wild animals in his career, but he knew bobcats were shy, quick, and not easy to approach. The fact that this one hadn't run meant something was seriously wrong. After nearly an hour of walking, Jack finally spotted movement near the edge of the ice. A female bobcat lay in the snow, her sides rising and falling slowly. Her fur was damp and tangled with frost. What caught Jack's attention next made him pause. Just a few feet away, 5 tiny cubs huddled together, their eyes barely open, their small bodies trembling in the cold. Jack crouched low, his heart beating faster. Wild mothers usually protected their young fiercely, but this one didn't growl or move. She simply lifted her head and blinked at him with tired golden eyes. "It's all right, girl," Jack murmured softly, though he knew she couldn't understand his words. His voice was calm, steady, and warm against the winter stillness. He removed his coat and carefully scooped the cubs inside it, feeling their warmth against his chest. Each one was so small he could hold it in the palm of his hand. Then he turned to the mother. Her breathing was shallow. She had likely been injured while hunting, and now the freezing temperatures were making it worse. Jack gently slid his arms under her, surprised at how light she felt. She didn't fight him. Perhaps deep down, she sensed he was there to help. The trek back to his cabin felt longer with the extra weight, but Jack didn't stop. The snow fell harder, uncovering their trail. At last, the cabin came into view. A small wooden structure tucked between pine trees, smoke curling from the chimney. Inside, the warmth from the wood stove wrapped around them. Jack laid the bobcat on a thick blanket near the fire. He placed the cubs beside her, and instantly they wriggled closer to their mother. She gave a faint purr, the sound soft but filled with relief. Jack quickly checked her injuries. A deep scratch ran along her side, likely from a larger predator. She was lucky to be alive, and so were the cubs. That night, as the storm raged outside, Jack kept watch. The mother bobcat's breathing grew steadier, and the cubs slept soundly, their tiny chests rising and falling in rhythm. Jack didn't know it yet, but saving this family would change his life in ways he could never imagine. Morning sunlight spilled through the frosted window of Jack's cabin. The storm had passed, leaving the forest coated in fresh snow. Jack sat beside the fire, sipping hot coffee, while the bobcat family rested on the blanket. The mother was awake now, her golden eyes alert. She didn't hiss or growl at Jack. Instead, she watched him with quiet curiosity, as if trying to understand who he was. The cubs were snuggled close to her belly, tiny tails twitching in their sleep. Jack reached slowly into his satchel for his medical kit. "Let's take a better look at you, girl," he said gently. He moved carefully, speaking in a calm tone so she wouldn't panic. First, he examined the wound on her side. It was healing better than he expected after just one night. He cleaned it again, applying a herbal salve he often used for injured wildlife. She stayed still, her ears flicking only slightly. Then Jack began to check the cubs one by one. Each was healthy, though small. He smiled as they wriggled in his hands, letting out tiny squeaks. But when he reached for the smallest cub, he froze. This one looked different. Its fur wasn't spotted like the others. Instead, it had a soft, pale coat with faint stripes along its back. Its eyes, barely open, were a striking blue, unlike the golden brown eyes common to bobcats. Jack's heart raced. This was unusual. Very unusual. He gently examined the little one again, making sure it was safe and warm. "That's not just a bobcat cub," Jack whispered to himself. The mother bobcat watched him closely, as if she knew he had noticed. Jack thought back to the ranger's report. He had said the bobcat had been seen hunting near an abandoned barn weeks ago. Could it be possible? Had the mother taken in an orphaned cub from another species? Jack had seen strange adoptions in the wild before. A fox raising a raccoon kit, or a dog caring for kitten, a skeets, but never a bobcat raising something else. The little cub gave a soft mewl, pressing against its adoptive siblings for warmth. The mother bobcat licked its tiny head, showing the same care she gave to the others. Jack felt a strange warmth in his chest. "Well," he murmured with a small smile, "you're full of surprises, aren't you?" He decided to keep the unusual cub's identity to himself for now. It was safer that way. People might interfere if they knew. For now, all that mattered was keeping the family together and healthy. As the fire crackled and the snow outside sparkled in the sunlight, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this mysterious little cub was going to play an important role in the days to come. He didn't know it yet, but the forest had its own way of weaving lives together, and sometimes it began with a secret hidden in plain sight. 3 days passed, and the cabin had become a safe haven for the bobcat family. The mother's wound was healing, and the cubs were growing stronger. The unusual pale-furred cub was fitting in perfectly, curling up with its siblings and never leaving their side. Jack had grown attached to them. He knew he would have to release the family back into the wild once they were ready, but for now, they needed warmth, food, and care. That afternoon, Jack decided to chop wood for the stove. The air outside was crisp, the forest quiet except for the sound of his axe striking the logs. But then, from somewhere deep in the trees, a sound broke the stillness. A low, throaty growl. Jack paused, gripping the axe handle tighter. He knew that sound. It wasn't a bobcat. It was deeper. Heavier. A shadow moved between the pines. Jack caught a glimpse. A large mountain lion, its tawny coat blending into the winter forest. It was watching him, its tail flicking slowly. Mountain lions were solitary, but hunger in winter could make them bold. Jack's cabin, with the scent of fresh meat and the presence of small animals, might be an irresistible target. Jack slowly backed toward the cabin, keeping his eyes on the big cat. He slipped inside and bolted the door. The mother bobcat was already alert, her ears pointed toward the door, body tense. She had caught the scent too. The cubs stirred in their blanket pile, sensing her unease. That night, Jack stayed awake, the rifle he used for animal control resting across his knees. He didn't want to hurt the mountain lion, but he had to be ready to scare it off if it came too close. The wind howled outside, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. Hours passed with no sign of movement, until, just before dawn, a heavy thump landed on the porch. Jack's heart pounded. He moved quietly to the window and peered out. The mountain lion stood just a few feet away, its breath steaming in the cold air. Its eyes glinted as it sniffed the door. The mother bobcat moved forward, standing between the door and her cubs. Her tail lashed, and a low growl rumbled from her throat. Jack acted quickly. He grabbed a metal pan and struck it with a piece of wood, the loud clang ringing through the trees. The mountain lion froze, then turned and slipped back into the shadows. Relief washed over Jack, but he knew this wasn't over. Predators in winter didn't give up easily. As the first light of day touched the snow-covered forest, Jack realized something. This wasn't just about caring for the Bobcat family anymore. They were in danger, and so was he. In ways neither of them could imagine, they would soon have to rely on each other to survive. 2 more days passed, and the mountain lion did not return. At least, not during the day. Jack hoped it had moved on, but deep inside he knew better. In winter, hunger could drive even the wariest predator to take risks. That evening, Jack stepped outside to fetch water from the well. The forest was quiet, the sky turning a deep shade of blue. Snow crunched under his boots as he walked. He was halfway back to the cabin when the sound came, soft at first, like snow sliding from a branch, then heavier. He turned and froze. The mountain lion was there. It stood between him and the cabin, shoulders low, eyes locked on him. Jack's breath caught. The rifle was inside, too far to reach. The cat took a slow step forward. Jack backed away, his mind racing. He knew better than to run. That would trigger a chase. But standing still felt impossible with those golden eyes staring into his. Then, from behind the mountain lion, a flash of movement broke the stillness. A streak of spotted fur burst from the trees. The mother bobcat. She hit the larger predator with surprising force, her sharp cry echoing through the forest. The mountain lion spun, startled, swiping at her, but she was fast, darting to the side and lashing out again. Jack didn't waste the chance. He bolted toward the cabin, yanking the door open and grabbing the rifle. He rushed back outside, shouting loudly and firing a warning shot into the air. The sound cracked through the cold. The mountain lion backed away, ears flat, before turning and disappearing into the forest's shadows. The mother bobcat stood in the snow, her sides heaving. She looked at Jack for a moment, just a brief, still glance, then turned and padded back to the cabin, where her cubs were safe inside. Jack's hands trembled as he closed the door. He knelt near the fire, watching the bobcat curl around her young. That glance she had, given him, lingered in his mind. It hadn't been fear. It had been something else. Trust. Days later, the snow began to melt. The forest stirred with signs of spring. Birdsong, running streams, the scent of pine needles warming in the sun. It was time. Jack carried the bobcat family to the edge of the woods. The mother stepped down first, then the cubs, including the pale-furred one, who looked back at him once before bounding after its siblings. The mother bobcat paused, her golden eyes meeting his one last time. Then she slipped into the forest, vanishing into the wild. Jack stood there for a long moment, the empty basket in his hands. He realized something quietly powerful. Months ago, he had saved her life. Tonight, she had saved his. The forest had its own way of keeping balance. In the end, kindness had come full circle.